Elizabeth Taylor at your birthday party or something. I came across in Las Vegas this last time a Sophia Loren impersonator. She wasn't an impersonator. She looked, I mean, I don't know how this woman gets through her life.
Really?
Like every 5 or 10 feet when we'd walk down the street, somebody would stop her and say, "You look just like, did you know you look?"
Yeah.
And they would,
That might
and then paparazzi kind of things.
impede one's ability to live one's life.
Really? Really?
You also do like to take photos of people who impersonate historical figures. And in this book, Land of the Free, you have one that I particularly like of Todd Gerling as a Hessian grenadier. And the Hessians, I guess, were the hired mercenaries that fought with the British during the Revolutionary War. Am I right?
It's close enough for my history book.
Okay. And this seems to me such an evocative photograph, and so carefully posed.
Yeah.
Of course, with the Stairmaster or the running track there and on the left
Well, that's
side.
there you go. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that's.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you came upon that particular?
Okay. Well, I knew this. Well, I happen to know the family, and I knew he was involved in that. And they were living in a colonial era house built in, kind of the late 1700s. And as I said, I thought like the contrast of the centuries. I mean, he was so authentic. I mean, he had taken German lessons. He had done all the research. He was quite fluent in the whole thing. But I just loved that idea of contrasting. I mean, the picture that got away from me was his wife, this blonde-haired beauty, standing kind of backwards on the Stairmaster with her elbows resting there. And I thought, oh my God, but she was a little camera shy.
And it might have cluttered up this effect.
There are some things that just, the camera's smarter than you are. I mean, I didn't realize how effectively this framing device was working. I mean, it's very simple lighting that we can see in the gallery around us here. This kind of perfect, it just lifts him right out of the environment. And then the door frame acts as the picture frame.
Yeah, and it does look like a painted portrait. Yeah.
It does. And
did you put the machine there on the left, or was it there?
Nope,
right
everything was there.
Really?
I mean,
even the pile of magazines on the other side?
Yeah. Usually, these days, I'd probably police the area a little more. Yeah. But yeah, and then they actually used it as the cover, which I thought was brilliant. Of course, I'm not a designer. What would I know?
So you had no say as to the cover.
I didn't, and I don't want any say, because I know that from when I've done mock-ups and stuff, they're not nearly as good as, I'm not a designer. I mean, I have some appreciation for design, but as far as making it out of, blank cloth, I can't do it. And I don't have any illusions. And I know a great book designer, so I'm happy.
Well, but you have had your photographs on the covers of many magazines.
Yep.
That's chosen by someone else, obviously, to put them on. I was struck looking at some of your covers, and I guess this would be one for a book, how much you recall Norman Rockwell. What do you think of Norman Rockwell?
I certainly, I can see it, and I have seen his. Well, one thing is he worked from photographs that he would take, and which gives them part of that photographic reality that he had. I think where we diverge is his were always very idealized, and I like mine to be very realistic. So there's this, in the pictures that I like the best of my own, they have a little bit of a reality clashing with the idealization. For instance, that one there that we just discussed, where you have the Stairmaster versus the crossed sword and the Hessian soldier. So, we both have a little bit of fun. I mean, there's some joking about, what's ironic in a picture and so on. I think his are a bit more saccharine.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, you're a postmodern man.
There you go.
And he was only a modern man.
What's a modern man?
So you've got to have a little irony in
there,
there, right?
A little irony. I don't have a lot, but I have a little bit.
When you go on the road, you mentioned to me before that you don't do it as much as you did.
Right.
But do you feel that this is really very central to your art, that you have to travel? And I know you've done 2 books, I believe, with Andrei Codrescu, who is a humorist and writer and a very interesting guy. You travel, I suppose, with him, and you sort of bounce off of each other. Is that how it works?
Yeah, those projects were both very specific. The one was called Road Scholar, and it was about a trip across the United States, kind of going back to his roots, traveling, kind of getting the blessing of Allen Ginsberg, because he's a beat poet, and Andre is the next generation of beat poets, one might say, if he's not listening. And so went across country. We didn't actually travel the whole time across country because there was a film to go with it, and film crews don't have the same time schedule that still photographers do. So what happened is, and also it was turning out that Andre it was kind of like a snapshot album of Andre. So what we did instead was they did the film, and then I went and met up with Andre in different places, and it worked out better that way. When we did the book on Cuba, we were together all the time, and that was fabulous. That was really good. And but the travel is essential, and when I don't travel, I get really itchy and upset.
Okay, so you're not a domestic photographer. You don't like to do you take photographs?
Oh,
I know you have a family. You have 3 kids.
I do.
Do you like to take pictures, the little more mundane sorts of pictures of the family?
Absolutely, I do. No, I love taking pictures, period. So I do it anywhere I can. And generally when I go in the darkroom, the first thing I'll print are the family pictures. And I love to do that. I have a little book dummy of my wife's garden called Janine's Garden that I would love to publish someday. I had a whole slew of pictures about our old house in the Tyler Park, which was an old farmhouse that I shot for years and just totally enjoyed. So I do that, and I have a pretty thorough snapshot collection. But my favorite snapshot book is this one particular notebook, which has ones that I feel have sort of crossed over from being just snapshots, so that the family members happen to be the participants in what is a more universal kind of picture. Yeah.
I see. You talk about the fact that you've taken, the garden pictures and the family pictures and the road pictures and so forth. I wonder if, and I imagine being a photographer, you're seeing like a photographer all the time, framing and cropping when you move through life. And I wonder if that gets fatiguing. I mean, can you turn it on and off, seeing like a photographer?
I do it a lot. I really do it a lot. If I'm in a hurry or something, or I'm pressed for time, it just sort of all of a sudden gets shuttled down into lower consciousness. But yeah, I'm always kind of looking, unless I'm just numb from the commute. Even the commutes. I saw a great picture today when I was stuck in traffic on I-95. Well, it was really slow coming south on I-95, and there was this great billboard about a furniture company. And they had just built 3 houses literally right underneath this billboard. And I just thought, well, that's, just an amazing juxtaposition, because there was the exterior of the house and there was the interior of the house in 2 dimensions above. And again, it had that image in reality. Yeah, yeah. And usually I have this feeling that if you can see it from the car, it's not a picture. I mean, you got to really, because you're in the wrong space.
Did you have your camera and take the picture?
No, but
you'll go back.
I'll go back and get it. Yeah.
Is that how it works? You'll see something, you get an idea, and then you go back and you make sure it's right. You arrange
Sometimes
it.
Around here I do, because generally I'm on my way someplace. But if I'm traveling in wherever it happens to be, Nevada, Arizona, wherever, that's what I'm there for. So I stop and do it.
So otherwise you don't carry a camera with you?
Oh, no, I always have one with me.
Okay.
So,
yeah, it seems
there are exceptions, but I have, generally smaller cameras just in case something amazing happens. And gotta have it.
Tell us about how you got into photography. I mean, was this always the way you felt you would express yourself, or was it serendipity that you made this into your career?
It was kind of dumb luck that my best friend in high school, Mark Daniels, went away to college. He was a year older than me. And he came back at Christmas or Thanksgiving, whatever it was, with this notebook full of photographs and drawings. He's a very talented guy, that were all sort of drawn on and glued in and stuff. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And so I had him take me out to a store, and we bought a camera, and then he kind of taught me a little bit, and then I took some classes, and I just decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So I was lucky that it worked out. So.
Do you feel you tap into something in the American psyche right now? I mean, obviously you've had success as a photographer. Many people don't. That somehow your vision coincides with how people are seeing things?
How do you mean? In what way?
I guess I wonder why you have been so popular as a commercial photographer, and I wonder if it's because you're on the pulse somehow of the way people are seeing experience
certainly I think that changes. I mean, I have felt it change because, when I first started to get the freelance work, I wasn't quite in sync with what was going on, and then all of a sudden it was what I was doing. So,
in other words, you would do a photograph, and it was just what the...
No, it was more, I mean, the editors, you're at the mercy of the editors or the art directors, and they have to get and call you up, and all of a sudden there was a period when the phone was ringing all the time, and it was great. Now there's in the kind of hipper pictures, the kind of places that you'd want to work, there's a rougher quality to the work that's that mine doesn't synchronize with as cleanly as I would like. And so I still get the jobs, but there's some that I'm missing because my style isn't exactly what's happening out there right this minute. On the other hand, I will say, if you go past the editors, the art directors, to just sort of regular people, civilians I would call them.
Man on the street.
Yeah, I mean, the way I do pictures, people understand them. I mean, they get them, and I want that. I really want the pictures to communicate very directly. I mean, I remember when I was in art school, there was this one day I was tired of taking pictures that nobody understood.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I couldn't share them. I'd show them to somebody and they wouldn't get it.
Did your style change after that?
Yeah, I literally I said, okay, I'm going to make it clear what the picture's about. And, and then, I mean, that was,
I guess it's like anything else. You like to have an audience that appreciates you.
You do. I mean, why? I mean,
you're communicating.
You're communicating. I mean, you are, and you have something inside you that you want to share with people. And I mean, you're always wondering, hey, look at this. I just did this.
Yeah,
I mean, like my friend Mark and I, whenever we would see each other, the first thing we do is drag out the boxes of stuff and show each other what we had done. So, it's great fun to do that.
So what are you working on now? You have a project in the works, a book in the works?
Well, I have, 4 or so projects right now. I mean, I'm at the stage that I like. My favorite stage is when you go, okay, this is the project, and you just sort of throw yourself into it, and that's what you're doing 100% of the time. But right now I'm in a very pleasant period that comes just before that, where I'm sort of taking the pulse of 4 different projects, and so I go shoot, and then I'll print, and then the fun thing that I'll do is come back to the studio and sort of shuffle them around into notebooks and change where they are and pin them up on the wall and see how they look together.
Is there a subject matter that's beginning to emerge?
Well, I want to do this impersonators project. I've never actually done it as a standalone project, and I'm trying to do that to get critical mass with that, which is why I did that convention. I just needed more. I needed to show the breadth of it. And there's another project I've been doing that's pretty atypical for me, where I just kind of walk down the street with the camera, and I usually have an assistant, and I have a flash, and the assistant has a flash. So it's kind of pretty professional-looking setup. And I'll just walk and walk until we find somebody we like, and we'll just stop them and take their picture.
And do people usually agree to give permission?
Almost all the time.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah, I mean, it also depends. Like if I take my teenage daughter, they always say yes. Because it's, I
She's
don't,
benign,
well,
right?
I don't look threatening. She's cute. It's great. But even if I, have one of my assistants or interns or whatever with me, it still works most of the time. I mean, generally businessmen won't agree. I don't know what their problem is, but
women are more likely to agree than men?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And and men will agree too, but it's the businessmen that will say no.
They're worried about their image.
I guess. So, but anyway, these pictures have, they're pretty straightforward, almost, they have a reference to the snapshot aesthetic in that the figure is boink right in the front, in the middle, and kind of, waist up or 3/4 portrait at best. But I like the group pictures, and I just wait until somebody has some magnetism and has something about them. And they're not exploitative. I don't look for the real weirdos or anything. I like people that are kind of archetypal figures that I come across. And so that's one. And that's fun because I can do them. I have a camera with me all the time. So I'll find an opportunity at any moment to do that.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. And I want to thank you for joining us today and telling us about your vision as a photographer.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us at the Drexel interview.